Hello, and welcome to FrostBytes, where logistics and tech meet a fresh perspective. I'm your host and head of marketing at PAXAFE, Ivan Castro, and today I have the honor of speaking with our guest, Saddam Huq. Saddam is a veteran of pharmaceutical cold chain and quality, with 20 years of experience spanning organizations like Fresenius Kabi, Pfizer, and GSK, where he now serves as Director of Cold Chain and Logistics. Saddam is one of the pioneers of lane qualification and transport validation, and now has strategic oversight for the logistics network at GSK and the role automation and digital products play within it. Without further ado, Saddam, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ivan, and a pleasure to be here as well.
Saddam, before we dive into your fantastic background, our viewers love to start with a shock to the system in what we call Saddam's hot take. We want to hear from you an opinion that you have about cold chain logistics industry that others might find controversial or contrarian.
That's a difficult one, huh? I mean, everybody has their own opinion. So for me, when I look at, over my experience, the industry is over-engineered with reliability at the cost of agility. And, while we pride ourselves with having near perfect temperature compliance when it comes to 228 or any other temperature ranges that we're looking at, it's often done through redundant layers of validation work, excessive manual oversight, and really sometimes it's conservative decision making as well. So these practices make cold chain operations rigid, expensive, and very slow to adapt to innovations. And in a true sense, we're not also using the power of thermostability data to design validation processes and the distribution and how we can use that data more effectively. And as a matter of fact, many organizations are relying heavily on legacy qualification models rather than technology advancements. And not using IoT-based predictive monitoring, adaptive packaging, AI-driven route optimizations, etc., and so on. So this kind of risk avoidance mindset is really setting us back. So
Saddam, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Continue.
yeah, just to complete that, true reliability is really on the modern cold chain mindset to use intelligence, flexibility, and not really, depending on redundant validation.
Saddam, I was going to say that truly is controversial. More often than not, we hear that organizations want to spend more on redundancy and reliability so that they get as perfect as possible. Do you think that this mindset is actually changing now?
It is changing, but it is a mindset shift, right? So sometimes the expectations can vary depending on markets, depending on regulatory expectation as well. We do see, we have to take some exceptional changes when it comes to dealing with some authorities where they are more accepting of taking a risk mindset rather than having, more stringent controls on validation, etc.
So I think that's a great point and something that we'll continue to touch upon on today's episode. Now let's switch gears to your journey in what we call Saddam's cold start. You've had this incredible journey and have had your hands in defining what the industry looks like today. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got here?
Yeah, well, absolutely. So my career journey is deeply rooted in the intersection of science, engineering, and logistics. So I started my education in the US. So I did a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, which I'm not really using as much. But in my beginning of my career, so as I started off working as a process engineer, I was really using a lot of the academics of what I studied, etc., and so on. Dealing with chemical manufacturing processes, where I gained hands-on experience in process design, optimization, plant operations. So it kind of set my foundation, where I did a lot of technical, analytical, problem-solving skills, and so on. And with that, I tried to broaden my expertise and move from chemical manufacturing industry to much more of a life science sector. And I kind of transitioned into a role as a validation consultant with Fresenius Kabi. So this would be kind of my true life science experience that I started about 18 years ago, where I kind of specialized in facility equipment validation in a purely aseptic manufacturing operation. So I was doing a lot of not really still focused in thermal validation as such. It was more to do with aseptic validation processes, looking at injectable products and so on. But soon enough, it started when we looked at facility validation. I started working a lot on cold room qualifications, transport validation for home care patient supply chain, going directly to the patients. So that would be my first exposure in the temperature sensitive product distribution. And as soon as you land within the cold chain industry, the growing interest, especially I'm speaking about 15 years ago, this was not you could not get a lot of SMEs in this area. And that's where I think the first opportunities kind of came up. So I took a role with Wyeth Biotech, which became Pfizer, uh, 6 months down the line when I started with Wyeth, where I took on the role as a cold chain lead, responsible for GDP validation of warehouses and global transport validation. So I would say this was my mainstream experience dealing with different packaging solutions, road freight, air freight, sea freight, and so on. And this is where I really understood and got hands-on experience executing qualification of different type of temperature control freight shipments, and also to establish some of the best practices within Pfizer at the time. And building on that foundation, I stayed about 3 years with Pfizer at the time. And with that, I joined GSK and I moved from one side of the fence to the other. So I was in distribution before. Then I joined GSK as the quality, in a quality role, leading basically the GDP process overall. And within GSK vaccines, it was still, it was a growing organization and it was a newly created role. So I had to pretty much, write up my job specification and job roles as I went into that role. So I was kind of instrumental at the time to set up the global quality and distribution standards, working as the business quality partner across all our logistics functions. So main role kind of involved in setting up the different quality standards that we have, the validation standards. I was a lead auditor at the time as well, so I had a lot of exposure auditing different LSPs, different warehouses, wholesalers, and so on. But overall, it was to ensure we maintain the end-to-end compliance when we are distributing products all the way to the customers. And today, as I sit, about 5 years ago, I took on the role again, moving from quality into the distribution world, where I'm leading as the director for the cold chain and logistics network. So my focus now is much more on strategic transformation of the distribution network and the logistics network. And it's really to bring efficiency, sustainability, and resilience within the supply chain. I mean, my team, obviously, it's not a one-man show. I have my team who are serving as the subject matter experts for all the different cold chain systems that we manage today. So starting from manufacturing all the way to distribution. So that includes your main domains like warehousing, storage, passive, active shippers, transport validation, which is road freight, air freight, sea freight, and rail freight as well, which is becoming quite interesting as well. And also looking at digital visibility solutions as well, where we are looking at end-to-end cold chain tracking that can drive better insights into smarter, more sustainable logistics decisions.
Saddam,
So
it's super exciting to hear how you came from a place where you were building foundation for quality in organizations, building the first practices for other organizations, and now you're involved in how digital and AI are changing logistics. It must be so interesting to see that evolution. And I can only imagine that in that progression of your journey, you have seen some significant challenges in building those foundations and enabling those practices. Could you share some of the bigger hurdles that you experienced in actually deploying these capabilities and operationalizing them within pharma?
yeah, I mean, there are, of course, a lot of challenges when it comes to the technical part. But my biggest professional challenge would be mainly when I had to move from a technical expertise role to a much more strategic logistics business leader role. I mean, everybody speaks about the challenges they faced during the pandemic. Like you had route disruptions, airport closures, deeply constrained the supply chain. We had to find around the clock trying to find alternative transport routes, get simpler processes in place, have regulatory approvals, and at the same time not compromising quality and compliance. And this really tested resilience, creativity, and teamwork. But for me, I think my inflection point was really when I moved from kind of the technical role to start shaping a much more broader business strategy. And this is when I moved into my new role about 5 years ago. And I'll acknowledge my mentor and my manager Pascal as well, who kind of moved me in that direction and say that you got to move from a technical expert and move to a much more strategic and business role. So we started a program called Magellan. It was mainly to enable sea freight, and for that we had to set up a network of regional distribution centers that would drive major transformation across the cold chain logistics landscape. Because sea freight as a whole, it was not we were not able to deliver directly to the patient, or sorry, not directly to the markets, mainly because of lead time challenges and so on. So we had to find some ways of shipping product under quarantine, setting up that network of RDCs where we are able to ship product under quarantine using sea freight, and then being closer to the market. And the biggest challenge did not come for me as a crisis. It was really an evolution. So moving into a much more strategic, business driven leadership role that required a complete shift in mindset for me. And this was not just a project, it was really a program. So this program had many projects because we had RDCs that had to be set up in different regions of the world. So we had one in Asia Pacific, one in Latin America, one in the US, and so on. And it was also to enable sea freight because this was a long-term goal for us. And there is a lot of caution when it comes to sea freight. Is it the right mode of transport? Is it going to add more risk to your organization? We had to go through all those hurdles. And not only that, I mean, we had so many stakeholders in the business that we need to align with. It was not just logistics and quality. We had to align with commercial, legal, finance, because we had to find they had different priorities, timelines, risk perceptions, and we had to translate all these technical realities into business language and business strategy that could be executable in an operational environment. We had to find customs processes that would work, free trade zone options that we had to find out, new legal entity setups. These were all new things for me, and it was a journey that I had to take and learn as we went along, on this initiative.
I love this example, Saddam, because normally we get examples that deal with crisis. And in your case, it's not necessarily a crisis, but it's building something that's going to drive business value and strategic value later on. If you had to wave a wand and get what you needed to make a pharma, whether it's internal or the ecosystem around it of LSPs, to make changes to enable these strategic decisions to happen faster, what do you think has to happen so that the ecosystem works together quicker?
Well, you're dealing with not just one LSP, I would say. You're dealing with, and it's different parts of the geographic region, right? So you have your different partners, different logistics service providers, different mindset as well, because you have to go through those cultural barriers. Because when you're dealing with someone in Latin America, it's very different to when you're dealing somewhere in the Asia Pacific, and you're working with different partners as well. So you have local heroes, you've got your global players as well. So you have to find the right partners, and at the end, you need to have the right expectations set from the beginning. You are operating in a highly regulated environment. Firstly, it's secondly, you have to build confidence in what you are going to propose, because at the end, you have to deliver a vision. Especially with a lot of these transformation projects, it's not about just solving problems and creating systems, but it's really the collaborative approach that you need with the LSPs to create that mindset and to move move together in one direction.
Sam, I love that comment you made there of that you need to deliver the vision, and I think that's super important, especially as we jump into our next segment of the lightning round, which deals with technologies. And even though we'll talk about whether you think these technologies are hot, cool, or cold, we always have to keep in mind that it's not necessarily about deploying the tech, but it's the vision of what that technology is meant to deliver for your organization. So let's jump into this lightning round, Saddam. I'll read out these technologies. I'll ask you to tell me, do you feel hot, cool, or cold on the outlook of these technologies over the next few years? So we'll start first with real-time IoT and visibility.
For me, this is bullish and hot because visibility is the new currency. You can't optimize, predict, or control what you can't see. And real-time IoT devices, they enable proactive decision making when it comes to route optimization and even true end-to-end cold chain control.
Now, this one might be a little bit controversial to your first point, but how about passive data loggers? Are they here to stay, or do you think we're going to phase them out eventually?
I'm a bit bearish here. I'm a big fond of IoT devices, real-time devices. Now, I do see passive loggers becoming obsolete over time as we transition more and more to IoT-enabled devices. But I would say, they will remain in some limited use lanes where a lot of times we are not able to return the IoT devices back because they tend to be expensive and we do lease them out. And, that's currently the model that we see. But the trend is clear. I mean, real time is the future, and you are not able to get that with passive devices.
So now moving on to lane qualification, which you were a pioneer in developing. What do you think about its current state in the industry and where it's going?
Absolutely hot for me. Lane qualification is evolving. It used to be, even currently for us, it's a very manual, resource heavy process. And if we can move to a much more digital, data driven capability, this is great news for us. It can drive efficiency. And with analytics and simulation tools, we can qualify faster, cheaper, and in a smarter way.
Yeah, it's always tough to hear some of our partners dealing with long qualification cycles that make some of the recommendations coming from systems and analytics hard to implement. So I think that's a great point you make there, Saddam. We got a couple more here. One, sustainability. Is this something that you find is something the industry is caring about, or is it a check mark that we have to address every now and then?
Ivan, this is not no longer a checkbox anymore. Yeah, it's a strategic priority for us, for GSK and for our business as well, because the industry is serious about sustainability. It's embedded in pretty much most of the discussions we have with our LSPs, with our partners, and so on. And it's not just for compliance because it drives efficiency. We have seen with sustainability goals, it also drives cost efficiency as well. Because when you're trying to look for example, when we are trying to move from air freight to sea freight for sustainability goals, it's driving a lot of optimization in cost efficiencies as well, and lower emissions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great to hear, and more often we're hearing that enterprises are being challenged to do both, is not only do the sustainability for the obvious reasons of taking care of the earth, but that you are going to drive efficiencies and you need to achieve those. So it's yes and yes, I'm hearing more often, and that's what I think I'm hearing from you as well. So we've got one more here, Gen AI for temperature controlled logistics. Is it a fad, or do you think it's ready for prime time, Saddam?
Neutral to bullish, I would say on this one. Still early days, but promising. I mean, it's not a fad. It's gaining traction in predictive modeling, automation when it comes to documentation and other digital initiatives that I see. And also when you can detect anomalies within supply chain. The potential is huge, but the challenge really lies in the quality of data that you get, and also the regulatory acceptance piece.
Mm-hmm. I'd love for you to comment a bit on what you see are some of the challenges with data. I hear that as a hot topic often. What might be the one or two top data issues that you see in preventing AI from doing what it needs to do?
I think the quality of data is probably the most important one, and the validity of the data. So there is always data integrity issues. The information that you're getting, is it real time? Is it correct? Is it do you need to take it with a pinch of salt? So sometimes the data that you get are you able to use it? And there is a lot of challenge behind it. So you need to make sure that whatever data you use, you can back it up with evidence. And to me, that's really the true essence of how we can use that data.
Saddam, we've just, for the last couple of minutes, talked about newer technologies that are being implemented now and making change today. Our watchers love to hear what's coming next. What trends and innovations do you see, Saddam, envisioning and shaping the cold chain industry over the next couple of years?
A lot of changes coming through, but looking ahead, I do see a key trends reshaping. Firstly, I think there is a strong shift towards the sea freight as a primary mode of transport because of obvious reasons. Yeah, it's more cost efficient and it supports your sustainability targets. And I think we will also see a wider adoption of reusable packaging systems. And of course, without doubt, IoT enabled sensors that provide real time visibility that will drive both cost and environmental efficiencies. And beyond that, digital transformation, as we see, it will continue to accelerate with end-to-end supply chain visibility, taking much more of a data-driven lane risk assessment, becoming much more of a standard practice, and altogether, I think building a smarter, greener, and more resilient cold chain network.
Saddam, it sounds like with all these changes, the people that are doing the work day to day are going to be working in many different ways. Do you see this as the case? And maybe what suggestions do you have for them as all these changes start to come through?
I think we need to be in a continuous learning mindset, firstly, especially when it comes to AI being much more fluent and matured when it comes to machine learning with, I mean, now we see, Copilot, Chat GPT. I mean, it's so easy to get information. I think we should take advantage of that. And people, can't just rely on, information coming from you can do deep analysis with a lot of these tools that are within your hands. And I think we just need to innovate and use and be effective in doing things quicker with all these tools available. And if we don't learn it, we'll stay behind.
Now, you mentioned all the other parts of the ecosystem that are going to be part and parcel to this change. Moving to sea freighter is going to be different demands on logistics providers. The increase in use of reusable packaging is going to be a whole new thing. What do you think is going to be the responsibility of the logistics service providers to help enable this? And what suggestions do you have for them being a pioneer here and someone in the pharma industry driving this change?
Well, a lot of times, we are the user and we go to the LSPs and vendors to tell them exactly what we need and what our expectation is. We don't see it working the other way around, where the LSPs are coming with innovative solutions and telling us, this is how we can improve things. So I think they need to be one step ahead of us if they want to really compete in this field. Because a lot of times when we are going to our vendors and suppliers with solutions that we want to achieve, it seems like it's always a one piece communication, one way. And we really want this to be reversed, where the vendors and suppliers, they should be on top of the trend. They should be telling us, where we need to go. I mean, we can have the vision to go to the moon, but at the end, they are the ones who need to deliver. I mean, they are the ones who are moving the products, not us. We come with the vision, but they need to be working with us. A lot of times it's always us kind of pushing them, in that direction. But I feel it should be the other way around.
Well, Saddam, I could tell you through my conversations on FrostBytes, I have a feeling that over the next 6 to 12 to 18 months, you're going to see the logistics service providers and other packaging providers really make a push to do what you're saying and come out with new and innovative services that get to the type of efficiencies and change that you're looking for. So I think there's going to be a good days ahead. Now, before we wrap up, Saddam, we want to hear about a logistics legend story, a time where you or a colleague or a team went above and beyond to get your job done. Do you have a memorable story that you'd like to share with us?
There's so many stories, huh? I mean, I think, Nothing happens in isolation, I would say. Success is always the result of a teamwork, especially working with our LSPs and suppliers. One memorable example where I think our packaging vendors that they really went beyond was redesigning a passive shipper that we were facing a specific challenge on, and we had to deliver that within a specific time frame. That mainly came because of some strict pallet height constraints that we have, and the standard packaging solutions that we used. We wanted to make sure that we were not compromised on the insulation, because especially if we wanted to use that in a wide-bodied aircraft, we couldn't exceed a certain height. So that means they had to find a solution where they had to keep the insulation panels to a minimum, and some way to make sure that we can fit in a full pallet. So they did come with, and we couldn't use an off-the-shelf design. So our teams had to come together with their team to innovate, and co-create a customized shipper that met all our requirements. That is, meeting our optimal height, making sure that we are also controlling cost as well, that we couldn't have a bigger cost on top of that. And this was really a great example where we blended innovation with collaboration as well. And it wasn't just about solving the technical problem. It was redefining what's possible when the partners come together and truly work together with a shared purpose.
So I love that, and I'm always fascinated in cold chain and logistics, how things are much more than digital. It's quite real, and to your point, gets down to the length, width, and height of things, and whether it's going to fit and actually manage the temperature over time. It's not easy, and I think your example here really shows how it requires all the parties to come together to make something in the real physical world be delivered on time and in the right conditions. That's awesome. So Saddam, we've got one more section here for you. We like to call this our cool wraps, and we'd love for you to share any piece of final advice that you have for anyone coming into logistics, coming into cold chain, to end the show.
Sure. Well, I'm not as wise as I can be. My advice is, take one step at a time. Progress comes with small, consistent actions. Build connection with your partners, your peers, because networking and collaboration is the heart of everything that we do in the industry. So, I say this always: nothing happens in isolation. If you have encountered a problem, chances are, others are facing the same issues. And the best solution is when you bring wise minds together. Have patience, have curiosity, embrace new technologies like AI. They can make incredible things possible. But remember, technology is just an enabler, right? So the real innovation really comes from the people who are willing to think differently, work together, and challenge the traditional way of doing things.
Thank you so much, Saddam. And that's one cool wrap for FrostBytes. Thanks for everyone for watching over the last year. To our listeners, continue to tune in. Don't forget to subscribe and stay connected for more insights from leaders in cold chain and logistics. Until next time.